The following episode may contain sensitive material, including descriptions of violence, sexual assault, or graphic descriptions of injuries to victims. If you feel you may be triggered by such material, please consider this before accessing our content. To access trauma counseling or services, please speak to a trauma specialist.
One weekend, 2 deaths. One witnessed, one unwitnessed.
He caused a terrible storm in that village and uprooted trees and turned the tractor upside down and ripped the roofs off houses.
Then after we had a bang, a big bang, then we scattered everywhere. Then the second bang, we woke up and everyone was crying. My name is Aisha Banda. I was 14 when I was struck by lightning on the year 2014. I was coming from school with my other 3 friends. It was a bit raining, drizzling, I can say. Then we were passing through a park called Joburg Park by Joburg. So we decided to take off our blazers and cover ourselves, and there was not lightning, there's nothing. It was just cool, just pouring water. There was a lady beside the tree standing there, wearing all black. I don't know what she was doing there, but she was just standing. Then after we had a bang, then we scattered everywhere. Then the second bang, we woke up and everyone was crying. Then we asked ourselves what happened, because it was just a split of a second. Everything just happened. After, one of my friends, she was acting crazy. I don't know, she was running around. So people came to come and rescue us. Traffic cop, metros, they came. So they had to catch her first. Then I turned all pink. I don't know, I felt by my head on the concrete, and my other friend fell in the mud. She was so dirty, like she was rolling it down, and she was paralyzed, half of her down her body. My other friend was hurt because she hit beside the tree. Oh, the lady was wearing a black. She was torn and she died. Then they took us to General Hospital. Then they check us, then they ask us if we can recap anything. I said, yeah, I do know my name, I do know where I stay, I do know my mom's phone number. But others, they were so confused, they didn't know anything. Then the others, they were injected, given medication, and they were kind of bad. So my mom came and informed the other moms. So they were staying in Soweto, Pretoria, so they had to come and organize transport for them. So after we came, my mom brought clothes for everyone because we were so dirty that I don't know what happened, but we just like we're rolling in the mud. My hair was sticking out. I don't know. My hair was sticking out. After we stayed out from school, I think for a week, because everyone dissed us. They said, these kids, they say like satanism or something. Then we trended on Facebook. They say, did you see these 4 kids that were hit by lightning? How come they survived and the other lady died? They say, we were one of we have planned all this to take us so. But everyone knew us. We were so shocked that we were still young, we don't know anything by then, but we were struck by lightning. I think it was an accident, if it was supposed to be hit lightning or it was targeted on someone.
One weekend, 2 deaths. One witnessed, one unwitnessed. The witnessed death took place in Olivenhoutbos. The unwitnessed death took place in Pretoria North. According to the available history, it had begun raining, and the man was seeking shelter under a food stall. The woman at the food stall said, "Wait under the shelter until the rain stops," to which he joked that he will not melt in the rain. He then walked in the rain for a distance of 20 to 30 meters when lightning struck him. The scene showed very little physical evidence. Aside from the fact that it was in an open area, there was no real tall structures such as trees. It seemed to us that this was a direct strike.
On the 21st of February 2020, at approximately 2 o'clock, I was informed about an incident or a crime scene where a person was allegedly struck by lightning.
There was a lightning and follow.
And then what happened?
And he died.
And did you come to him?
I came here and see. I saw that he was gone, and I go and collect the people.
And the people
to help
come.
me. Yes.
The electrical engineers came to the scene to determine the conductivity of the ground, to determine if there were structures which may have attracted lightning, etc.
We're busy trying to measure and quantify the site. What does the soil look like from an electrical point of view? How well would it conduct electric current? And this helps us understand the probable injury or mechanisms involved. So better conducting soil would have different effects involved to poor soil, for example, or the amount of moisture in the soil. So an important measurement that we haven't mentioned is conductivity, or we also call it resistivity. And by using a field instrument like this, we're able to determine the resistivity of the soil.
We are also going to get weather service data to find out if there was in fact lightning at that particular moment. All this physical evidence will have to come together for us to call it lightning.
At the moment, what we're doing is what's called a sounding array from an electrical engineering point of view. And we put in electrodes into the ground, and we pass some current and voltage through the system and see what happens. And that way we're able to determine what the soil looks like all the way from the surface all the way to a good couple of meters down. So as we change the separation, we get to see deeper underground. So we've started at 6 meters, we're now doing 4 meters, then we'll do 2 meters and 1 meter, and we'll get a profile of what the soil looks like here. From what we can see already is, I suspect there's some good soil underneath, but the surface here is almost like concrete. You can see how hard it is to hammer in. And this helps us understand better what, and it's corroborating evidence to any of the other evidence we've gathered.
People have difficulty comprehending the distance from where the lightning actually happened and what they're witnessing. The second thing is the sound. It's usually flash and then bang. She interpreted it as bang and then flash.
Oh, I saw him by the man killed by the lightning.
But what did it sound like? What did you
There was do and
Really?
something like that.
She said she heard something and then heard the zzz, whereas it's first the flash and then the bang. So people have time-space distortion at times of extreme emotional events, which makes it difficult for us to trust testimonial evidence. So due to the fact that it was raining on the day, a lot of the blood got washed off the scene. Also, the scene was cleaned afterwards, according to witness accounts. So there was very little to be found on the scene itself. At autopsy examination, there was an adult black male who was endomorphic. His clothing showed signs of tearing and tattering. Some of the synthetic material showed signs of melting. There was a white drawstring on his trousers which showed soot deposition. His metal buckle on his belt showed signs of metallization. This is where one metal dissipates, leaving another metal behind, otherwise known as zincification or cuprification. His shoes had blown off. There was ruptures of the shoes. On examination of the body, there was a rupture of the eardrum. There was some singeing of hair. There was no other injuries noted on the skin. However, upon opening the body, there were fine bubbles noted on the posterior aspect of the sternal plate, on the breastplate. And this phenomenon is known as pneumomediastinum. The reason the eardrum ruptured and the reason that there were bubbles on the back of the sternum is due to the blast wave around lightning's luminous channel. Lightning's luminous channel is 30 to 50,000 degrees centigrade. That is as hot as the surface of the sun. And due to the fact that it's an immediate phenomenon, it superheats the air, causing violent expansion. And this is where the sound of thunder comes from. It's a thunder generating mechanism, and one can hear thunder up to 25 kilometers away. But due to this massive overpressure, one gets bomb blast effect. It's due to extreme barotrauma. And this extreme barotrauma or blast waves blows the clothing off. It tears and tatters clothing, it ruptures shoes, it bursts eardrums, and it causes bubbles behind the sternum, otherwise known as pneumomediastinum. There was a laceration under the chin, and this was due to the fact that he fell forwards onto his chin. So death was instantaneous. This is one of the quickest deaths one could ever have. You don't see it, you don't hear it. You are injected with hundreds of thousands of amps and millions of volts. You are injected with this extreme energy. It is one of the quickest deaths you can have, and you fall like a sack of potatoes. And this is the reason why on the face, on the chin, there was a laceration. So to prove that there was a positive pressure blast wave around lightning, we shot lightning through ballistic gel and paper to try and determine the magnitude of this blast wave. One needs at least 100 pounds per square inch for a human to fragment or disintegrate. This does not happen in lightning, so we determined that the blast wave must be less than 100 pounds per square inch. So the signs on the human body were typical of those found in bomb blast. And due to the fact there is a whole literature of bomb blast, what pressures are needed to cause what types of injuries. For example, one has this amount of pressure which can cause an eardrum rupture, or this amount of pressure which can cause pneumomediastinum. We could determine from the bomb blast literature what pressures are induced by a lightning strike. So we know that, for example, 70 pounds per square inch will rupture an eardrum in a bomb blast. Therefore, when we see a ruptured eardrum on a lightning strike victim, we know that that victim must have been exposed to 70 pounds per square inch from the lightning blast.
We made two measurements, well, actually several measurements, but one measurement tells us that the soil here isn't as bad as we would have thought. It's very hard on the surface, which means it's likely that water would have settled on the surface, but the ground underneath is a relatively good conductor as ground goes. And the other measurement we made is just to get a sense of the light pole there, how well it's connected to the ground, just as another measurement point to understand what's going on here. So nothing too conclusive in terms of, but it's a piece of evidence that we need to understand in the broader picture of things, of what's going on in the scene here.
Witness accounts are that of testimonial evidence. And due to the fact that people see the world in different ways, it's hard to fully comprehend testimonial evidence. And it's hard to trust testimonial evidence. So we want physical evidence. However, this testimonial evidence was the best evidence that we had, and it does corroborate with our findings. On the very same weekend, the storm cell moved from Johannesburg to Pretoria and claimed another victim. This was a female walking across a field. Once again, there were no tall structures, there were no trees. She was in the middle of a grassland when she got struck. This case was unwitnessed. Her body was found 2 days later, and already there was advanced post-mortem decomposition. The only reason we managed to diagnose this was the clothing. Now imagine if this body was found months later. South Africa has veld fires in the winter months. If a veld fire had moved through this field, it would have destroyed all the clothing and it would have destroyed all the evidence. So we were very fortunate to have found the body when we did and to find the signs of lightning on the clothing the way we did. So lightning can get one in about 5 or 6 ways. 5% of the time it's direct strike. And there's no structures or trees around here, so this is a direct strike and there's no way you can survive that.
This is where we can look at the physics. Lightning attaches directly to the person, and that energy and that charge, the electric charge, flows through the person.
But this is the thing, if one gets an unwitnessed death, you know, is this a body that's been dumped here? Is this a murder? You know, is this someone that died of natural disease? Did they have a heart attack? You know, or is this lightning? So these cases can be very challenging, you know, and we have thorough protocols because, as you say, she was last seen and then suddenly found dead. So we got a differential diagnosis. So post-mortem examination showed an adult black female. She was wearing a pink jersey and a yellow t-shirt, and she was wearing a black dress. All the evidence was on the yellow t-shirt and on the black dress. The yellow t-shirt showed tearing and tattering and synthetic fiber melting. The black dress also showed tearing and tattering with fiber melting. And that was enough evidence for us, together with her shoes. Her shoes also showed rupture from the lightning barotrauma. And that evidence was good enough for us to come to a conclusion that this was most likely in keeping with lightning. Please bear in mind that all our physical evidence will be corroborated with South African Weather Service data to show you and to confirm that a lightning strike happened at that precise GPS location. So all the data is taken together and corroborated. As the body dies, post-mortem changes occur. The body becomes more and more decomposed. Due to the fact that this is Africa under extreme temperature conditions, there was accelerated decomposition. So in 2 days, the body was already in the late green stage of putrefaction, which would complicate findings on the body. So bearing in mind the post-mortem changes, one had one chance to find the evidence, and all the good evidence happened to be on the clothing. It was with the clothing that we managed to diagnose the fact that it was lightning which killed them. Also, the fact that if the unwitnessed case had not been found, and this being Africa, if a veld fire had moved through, all that evidence would have been lost. So the key finding here being the clothing to diagnose lightning.
There's a mythical snake called the Inkanyamba, and the Inkanyamba lives in calm, dark pools of water. And from time to time, the Inkanyamba comes out of those pools and it flies through the sky, accompanied by thunder and lightning and rain, to look for a mate. That's why in some areas in KwaZulu-Natal, people say you should paint your corrugated iron roofs, because if the Inkanyamba thinks it's a pool, it might dive down and strike your corrugated iron roof. Another story that I heard about the Inkanyamba was a student of mine said when she was a child, some scientists came to their village to investigate the Inkanyamba. They found some Inkanyamba eggs and took them away with them. And the Inkanyamba was so angry when he came home and found that his eggs had been stolen, that he caused a terrible storm in that village and uprooted trees and turned the tractor upside down and ripped the roofs off houses. And that's the story of the Inkanyamba.
When thunder roars, go indoors. No place is safe outdoors in a thunderstorm.